Okay, let's go to the second chapter, chapter 13 for today, the second chapter for today because I have to complete the syllabus. Your exams will start in month of Feb, so I don't know when. So it's better that I finish it off, and then you could go and start off your revision. So let us start with this chapter, the New World. Now, Edward Malone, a journalist and the speaker of the story, goes on goes on an expedition of the beaten track to discover the new world. His companions are Professor Challenger, Professor Summerlee, and Lord John Roxton. So it was early in the early forenoon of the next day that we made the great departure. Since dawn, Professor Challenger had been actually acutely uneasy, continually scanning each bank of the river. Suddenly, he gave an exclamation of satisfaction and pointed to a single tree which projected at a peculiar angle over the side of the stream. Now, it was early in the forenoon, just before noon the next day, that they started moving uh, since dawn, since morning. Now, Professor Challenger, he was uneasy. He was scanning each bank of the river, and suddenly he gave an exclamation of satisfaction and pointed to a single tree. Because he saw the single tree and he saw something there and he was excited, which projected a peculiar angle over the side of the stream. So he said, "What do you make of that?" he asked. "It is surely an acai palm. It is surely an acai palm," said Summerlee. "Exactly. It was an palm, which I took for my landmark. The secret opening is half a mile onwards upon the other side of the river. There is no break in the trees. That is the wonder and the mystery of it. There, where you see light green rushes, that is my private gate into the unknown. Push through and you will understand." So he said, "Yes, that is a Sai Palm, and that is the landmark. This which I kept as so the secret opening is about a half a mile other side of the river. So let's go through it and you will understand." It was indeed a wonderful place. Having reached the spot marked by a line of light green rushes, we pulled out two canoes. Now, what is a canoe? Light, narrow boats. Through the through them for some hundreds of yards, and eventually emerged into a placid means a calm place, and shallow stream, and running clear and transparent over a sandy bottom. The stream was clear and was running, and you could see the sand at the bottom. It may have been 20 yards across and was banked in on each side by most luxuriant vegetation. No one who had not observed that for a short distance Reed had taken the place of shrubs could possibly have guessed the existence of such a stream or dreamed of the fairy land beyond. So, if you have never been to this place, what he's saying that you could not even dream that place existed. For a fairyland it was, the most wonderful that the imagination of man could conceive. The thick vegetation met overhead, interlacing into a natural pergola. Now, what is a pergola? Pergola is an arch in a garden yard with a frame for plants to grow over and through this tunnel of verdure in a golden twilight flowed the green, clear river, beautiful in itself but marvelous from the strange tints thrown by the vivid light from above, filtered and tempered in its fall to make something less severe. Looks nice. Green as the edge of an iceberg is stretched in front of us under its leafy archway, every stroke of a paddle sending thousand ripples across the shining surface. It was a fitting avenue to a land of wonders. Fuzzy little black velvet monkeys, they lived there, with snow white teeth and gleaming, mocking eyes, chattered at us while we passed, with a dull, heavy splash. An occasion came in. Now, a semi aquatic reptile similar to the alligator plunged in from the bank, jumped in from the bank into the stream. Now, once the yellow, sinuous form, sinus means turning while moving, of a great puma whisked amid the brushwood, brushwood, and his green, threatening eyes glared hatred at us over his tawny shoulder. Bird life was abundant. Now, plenty of birds were there, especially the wading birds, moving with effort. Stork, heron, and ibis gathering in little groups, blue, scarlet, and white upon every log, which jutted from the bank, while beneath us the crystal water was alive with fish of every shape and color. While they were walking through the branches which acted as the bridge, they could see all the fishes, they could see all the animals that they live, and they described, and the author is here describing all the different kind of animals that he saw. For, for 3 days, we made our way up this tunnel of hazy green sunshine. Hazy green sunshine means it was a thick forest, so the sun was not that strong inside, or the light of the sun. On the longer stretches, one could hardly tell as one looked ahead where the distant green water ended and the distant green archway began. The deep peace of the strange waterway was unbroken by any sign of man. Means man had not been here before. On the third day, it became evident that our journey in the canoes could not last much longer, for the stream was rapidly growing more shallow. Now, on the third day, uh, it became evidently that the journey cannot go on long forever because the stream was becoming shallow because it was no more deep. It was becoming less and less deep. So that means they were approaching ground. Twice in as many hours we struck upon the bottom. Finally, we pulled the boats up among the brushwood and spent the night on the banks of the river. In the morning, Lord John and I made our way for a couple of miles through the forest. So, in the morning, he and Lord John they walked through the forest for a couple of miles, keeping parallel with the stream. They were walking along the stream, but as it grew ever shallower, we returned and reported. So they returned and reported that they were hitting ground. What Professor Challenger had already suspected that we had reached the highest point to which the canoes could be brought. We drew them up, so they pulled up the canoes, therefore, and concealed them, hid them among the bushes, blazing a tree, moving a tree with our axes so that we could find them again. Then we distributed the various burdens among us. Means various work was distributed among themselves, like food, tent, blankets, and the rest, and shouldering a packaging. Shouldering a packaging means carrying on shoulders in an elegant way, carrying all the packages or whatever they had, carrying it on the shoulders. We set forth upon the most laborious stage of our journey. This journey was going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort. Summerlee was at odds with Challenger. An unfortunate quarrel between our pepper pots marked the outset of a new stage. Challenger had, from the moment of joining us, issued directions to the whole party, much to the evident. So these two, Summerlee and Challenger, were not agreeing on certain things. So they were having a fight also. Much to the evident discontent, Summerlee, now upon his assigning some duty to his fellow professor, it was only the carrying of an aneroid barometer. Now, aneroid barometer is an instrument for measuring pressure as a method that does not involve liquid. The matter suddenly came to a head. May I ask, sir? Suddenly came to the matter now came to a head where there was going to be a big argument or a big fight. May I ask, sir? Said Samali with vicious calm. In what capacity you take it upon yourself to issue these orders? Why are you ordering this? Are you the commander over here? Challenger glared and bristled. Now he was angry. I do it, Professor Samali, as leader of this expedition. So he said, as the leader of this expedition, I do it. I am compelled to tell you, sir, that I do not recognize you in that capacity. Now, Samali told him, I do not recognize you as the leader. Indeed, Challenger bowed with unworldly sarcasm. Perhaps you would define my exact position. So he said, okay, and what is my exact position? Who am I here? Yes, sir, you are a man whose veracity is upon trial. Now, veracity is the quality of being true, and trial is a test. You know that. And this committee is here to try it. You walk, sir, with the judges. Dear me, said Challenger, seating himself on the side of one of the canoes. In that case, you will, of course, go on your way, and I will follow you at my leisure. So, in that case, you go, you take the lead, and I will follow you whenever I feel like. If I am not the leader, you cannot expect me to lead. Thank heaven that there were these two sane men, Lord John Roxon and myself. So I also say, thank God there were two other people, me and Roxon. Otherwise, there would have been big chaos here. To prevent the petulance and folly of our learned professors from sending us back. Now, hmm, yeah, first sending us back empty handed to London. Such arguing and pleading and explaining, we could get them mollified. Mollified means calm down. Then at last, Summerlee, with a snare and his pipe, would move forward and Challenger would come rolling and grumbling after. By some good fortune, we discovered that this time both of our professors had the very porous opinion of Dr. Illingworth of Edinburgh. Thenceforward, that was one safety, and every strange situation was relieved by introducing the name of Scotch zoologists, when both our professors would form a temporary alliance, friendship, in the detestation and abuse of the common rival. So hatred. So the common rival was they hated Dr. Illingworth of Edinburgh. The place was horribly haunted by clouds of mosquitoes. The place was full of mosquitoes and every form of flying pest. We were glad to find solid ground again and make a circuit among the trees. On the second day, after leaving a canoe, we found that the whole character of the country changed. After they left the canoes, they found the whole place changed. Our road was persistently upwards as we ascended. Means while they were going, they found the roads were determined to do something despite it was kept on going upwards. So it was quite difficult to do that, to keep on climbing. And as we ascended, the woods became thinner and lost their tropical luxuriance. When they kept on going down, the fact of plants quickly and strongly, that is attractive. Now, on the ninth day, after leaving the canoes, having done as a recon about 120 miles, we began to emerge from the trees. We had grown smaller until they were more shrubs. The place was taken by an immense wilderness of bamboo. Now, while they're coming down the ninth day, they saw a lot of bamboo trees which grow so thickly that we could only penetrate it by cutting a pathway with the machetes and billhooks. Billhooks and machetes, they're like a knife, okay? They're used as a cutting tool or as a weapon. So their place was taken by immense. Okay, that is finished. It took us a long day traveling from 7 in the morning till 8 at night with only two breaks of 1 hour each to get through this obstacle. Anything more monotonous and tiring could not be imagined, for even at the most open spaces, I could not see more than 10 or 12 yards, while usually my vision was limited to the back of John Cotton's jacket in front of me and to the yellow wall within a foot of mine on either side. Now, from above came one thin knife edge of sunshine. It was quite dark also inside. Now they saw a little sunshine coming in. I do not know what kind of creatures inhabit such a thicket, but several times we heard the plunging of large, heavy animals quite close to us. I mean, several times they heard a lot of large, heavy animals, but they didn't know what type of animals were there. From these sounds, Lord John judged them to be some form of wild cattle. Just as night fell, we cleared the belt of bamboos, at once formed a camp. Exhausted by the interminable day, lasting a very long time, the day. Now, this and the previous chapter question and answers I will give you today. So, two chapters I have to complete from now on. So, wish you all the best.